This is Envision Self-Healing Podcast, episode number 51. Hi, I'm Will Fuller.
And I'm Richard Miller.
And we are the co-creators of EnvisionSelfHealing.com and are dedicated in helping you improve your eyesight and quality of life
by taking healing into your own hands.
Now, if you haven't taken advantage already, check out the free ebook called A Modern Day Guide for Improving Eyesight on our website, and you've got 10 top tips there on how you can improve your eyesight in our modern day world.
The topic of the week this week is, are you eating horse meat? And in the question of the week, we have this from several sources that ask, should you close your eyes during the sunning eye exercise?
So Richard, how's the world of self-healing been treating you this week?
Well, my back has finally stopped hurting.
Fantastic. We can stop talking about your butt now.
Yeah, exactly. It's really my back. We'll call it my back for the...
Good, yeah.
But I wanted to share something, sort of a way of approaching posture that I learned from my trainer, Gustavo, that was very useful to me and has relevance in terms of increasing the alignment people have in their posture, which will help any kind of eye condition that involves circulation, which is a lot of eye conditions. Certainly like myopia probably would not be in that category, but anything like glaucoma, macular degeneration, all of those sort of more serious conditions all have some root in poor circulation. And obviously my condition of optic atrophy. So the idea that he presented to me that I think I kind of knew, but it was a good way of thinking about posture. And his presentation is you want to put yourself under tension, so like the tension of lifting a weight, something like that. Any kind of, or a squat, or any kind of...
Not emotional tension.
Well, no, yeah.
He's not going to tell you you've got to do 600 push-ups in under a minute, otherwise he's going to kick you out in the street or something.
No, exactly. It's not emotional tension. So when he says under tension, he means lifting a weight.
Okay.
Right. So the goal is, if you can be under tension, the reason, it'll become clear why I use the word tension. If you're under tension in good posture, that will sort of cement good posture.
Okay.
And actually the reverse is also true, and this is how it applies to us as well. If you're under tension at your job, if you're in in front of a computer with your shoulders up and your arms tight and your back in a wrong place in a poor alignment, and you're under stress, that also will cement that poor posture. So it's basically saying, there's an old expression of form follows function.
Okay.
Sort of that as well. And what you're saying is, okay, whatever posture you assume under stress, under tension, is what your normal posture is going to become.
Okay.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I always find that, I guess in particular with eye exercise, with obstructing, I always obstruct my stronger eye when I'm, say, using the computer, so that I can exercise the weaker eye.
Right.
But I notice once I'm under tension, the obstruction glasses come off, and it's,
you revert.
I just completely go back to it. And I guess being under that tension is a sign of, I guess, where you are.
Well, and he would say, in taking this concept back into eye exercises, is so if you take those glasses off and revert to moving your shoulders up, you're creating the momentum for that posture to continue throughout your whole life. Through all your hours of the day, you're going to be maintaining that poor posture. So the positive aspect of this is, if you can do weightlifting in a proper posture, and this was my experience every time I worked with him, and it's like, wow, I felt like I was really tall, my posture was really, really good from lifting weights in the proper posture.
Okay.
So you do have to have the flexibility in the muscles to allow you to assume that posture. So if you're way, way, way tight, say in the chest muscles, and your shoulders are coming forward, you have to have the flexibility in those muscles to be able to assume the proper posture. So that's where massage or self-massage comes in for those muscles. So let's assume then you've dealt with any tight muscles that are too tight to assume the proper posture. I think that's the first step. Then you need to have the strength in the core muscles to hold that posture. So you wouldn't want to approach, if you just have done no work on your body and say all I have to do is go do bench presses or deadlifts or something with good posture, that's better than nothing. But really you need to develop the core muscles so you can have the strength to hold that good posture. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
So it's a good 3-step process of loosening the muscles to allow the flexibility to assume the posture, then develop the core muscles. So these are transverse abdominis, the glutes to a certain degree.
Sounds like we should make this a topic.
I know. It's like, okay, this is sort of blossoming in my head. So anyway, all right. So anyway, that's what I did, the whole idea, and it's really worked for me. It's like my posture is starting to come into form in a way that it's never done before. And the one last thing I'll say that he shared that's an interesting way of looking at posture, he was in the Marine Corps when he was young.
Okay.
And he said, well, if you can take kids, basically 18-year-olds with very poor posture, throw them into the Marine Corps, and in 6 weeks they have good posture, what does that say about how difficult it is to actually do it? It's not as difficult as we may, granted these kids are being yelled at night and day, so maybe that's not what we want to do, but...
maybe people should employ us to walk around offices, kind of a bit Zen style with a...
Yeah, with us whack them on the back.
Zen stick and straighten that back.
Straighten that back. So, but it proves that you could, if you really put your mind to it, do it in a fairly short order.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my experience with posture this week.
Nice, yeah, I can definitely see how that would improve blood flow.
Yes. And how was your week?
Good. Many observations this week. In fact, I was counting 4 or 5 that I wanted to share today. But obviously, time is of the essence a little bit on that one, so I might have to save a couple of them for the coaching call.
Yes.
Maybe. So I guess the main one then would be that I started up yoga again this week for the first time in maybe 2 years now, and I did Bikram yoga, which is
the hot yoga, right?
Hot yoga.
Hot yoga.
And
are the people hot in the yoga?
Hot yoga. So I went to go in. I said, "Is this hot yoga?" And they said, "Sorry, you're not hot enough."
Oh, you're definitely hot enough for hot yoga.
So it took a while. It took maybe several weeks to build myself up to actually. There was always something.
All right, we can explain to people who don't know what hot yoga is, though, right?
I'm assuming a large percentage of our portion.
We live in San Francisco,
that's true. So Bikram yoga or hot yoga is where they make the room hot.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
I'm glad we explained that one.
Yeah, it might have been very confusing otherwise.
So they had it was different to what I thought. They had a little steam machine at the back of the room.
Okay.
And it sent some steam out, and which made the room hot. Plus, there's like 40 people in the room doing yoga, and it's a yoga studio, so they have maybe 6 or 7 classes a day.
Oh,
so, not all at once. So in the class is an hour and a half.
Wow.
So you certainly you get warm, shall we say? So finally built myself up to do it, and again I'm doing it for circulation. Reasons, get more blood flow to my eyes, because I certainly notice improvements, and just on theory it just makes sense to have better blood flow to the eyes, especially to keep the eyes nice and healthy and get those cells there, get a nice enrichment of blood. So so I've been waiting a while to go to yoga, and it was fantastic.
Great.
I really enjoyed it. It was I'm used to classes where there's sort of more engagement. And being a coach myself, I'm very used to that interpersonal relationship, going around helping people with their style and whatnot, and give individual, as teaching, when I train as a teacher, and as a teacher it's all about giving, identifying individuals, give them something positive, give them something negative, give them something to work on. But this approach was just a yoga instructor on a stand. And she wasn't doing the yoga.
Really?
She was, but what was so fantastic, it wasn't like she said, now stand on one leg. Silence. Now stand on the other. Like she was very motivating, very encouraging, and she still managed to give tips. She still managed to correct people's techniques, but to the whole class, and not just the individual. But of course, what that meant as a beginner, that I was trying to do all this. She was like, okay, now stand on one leg, right knee back, hip up, neck up, straight back.
Right.
So, and I would just fall over. But one thing that was great for me is that I noticed my balance was better.
Oh.
And Richard and I have discussed this before, because we were trying to figure out, because I have retinitis pigmentosa, and even though my periphery is greatly improving, we were discussing whether that lack of periphery could affect balance.
Yeah.
And it pretty much makes sense. I guess this came around because you get your sense of balance from straight lines in a room, and then your brain knows where you are in space. So if you don't have that, if all I've got is seeing in front of me, then I'm not able to necessarily locate where I am. So when I stand on one leg, it meant that I fell over a lot easier. And but one thing this yoga studio had, it was at night, it was 7, 8 o'clock at night, and it was dark. It was kind of funny really, when I first got in there, all the lights were off, and I thought, oh no, this is going to be a yoga class in the dark, and having night blindness, I just thought, this is
the worst possible scenario. Yeah.
But I thought it'd make a good podcast.
It would.
So anyway, I dealt with that well. I didn't stand on anyone on the way into the room, and I was sort of ushered to the middle at the back. So, but when the lights came on, and I wish I could have taken a picture, but I probably would have got kicked out for taking a picture of a bunch of people hot people in a yoga room. But I guess I can try and describe it as best as possible. It has two beams running down, sort of supporting beams.
Ceiling,
So you'd have a room. Let's say there was 3 compartments,
right?
And then dividing the first compartment and the third compartment would be these beams running down. Anyway, they had lights in the ceiling, but running down those beams along the ceiling were lights, not Christmas lights, but it's like plastic tubing.
Light
what they would maybe have outside.
Yep.
Anyway, they were quite bright. I think they were also blue, quite a funky colour.
Right.
And this is San Francisco, right?
Right.
So, and the ceiling was also painted in sky, which was quite nice. Anyway, I was right in the middle of all of this. So I had a whole string of light in the ceiling running down my left peripheral vision and my right peripheral vision. And where I've been working so hard on my periphery, I've been able to gain access to that part of my peripheral vision. And because it was in 2 straight lines, when I was doing the balancing exercises, like standing on one leg and like the tree position, I had to focus a lot, but I was able to focus on those 2 lights, and I was able to keep my balance better than I ever have done before. So I was just amazed.
Wow, that was so fortunate to have those lights.
Yeah. But it also showed me the improvements that I've gained over the 2 years. Before, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, I talked about walking along the bridge and the Golden Gate Bridge, and how I noticed that I could see a bit more traffic at that time, and that how instead of necessarily having a peripheral field test and them telling me whether I've improved or not, I like having these random occurrences that show that you're moving in the right direction. Right. So for me, that was a real big thing. And I guess even better was that I woke up this morning and I didn't feel like I was going to keel over. And I think even bigger for me was when I was doing the exercises, I wasn't pushing myself to the extreme. And I think I was probably the only person with a smile on my face in the room. I felt very laid back about it all. I think from where we've been working so hard and trying to encourage people to do the exercises, but to do it in a more light-hearted way.
Ironically, yoga classes these days can get competitive. So that's the problem.
So no, I really enjoyed that. I had a more positive, relaxed attitude. When I was doing the balancing and the exercises, it was a lot easier because I had gained access in that periphery, and the whole class wasn't in pitch black.
Well, that's good.
So I could actually see what people were doing. Anyway, I'm going to be checking out again for a while, so I'll let you know, let everyone know how I get on with that and the improvements. And I did certainly notice more access in my periphery at the end.
Yeah.
Afterwards, so really enjoyable.
Good.
Okay, great. Well, it's a good time to move on to topic of the week.
And the topic of the week this week is, are you eating horse meat?
It's very difficult to say with a serious face,
Yeah.
and it's kind of really sad that we even have this topic this week. And it is a little bit different from what we normally talk about, but we have talked a lot about nutrition before and how important it is. And we're not saying that horse meat isn't nutritious, but what this has come about from is in the news this week, the UK, their government department, their food health department, has discovered that lots of sort of beef products that are meant to be beef, in particular, sort of value meals or quick microwavable meals, maybe dinner meals you might call it, that are meant to be beef, they actually found horse meat.
Right. When the statistic was that they found it more than 1%, and under 1% they don't consider significant, which is interesting in itself.
Yeah.
That I still can't figure out why there would be even less than 1% if your whole factory is designed around beef. So.
I mean, the only thing I could think of is just like when you get products that say this may contain nuts.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I can think of. But what it is that they were testing the DNA then of all this food. Even that in itself scared me. The fact that we're now in a situation where we're having to DNA test our food to find out the location of it is enough for me to just be like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
You know what's going on here. But they tested, so now in the UK they're doing this big test on all these foods, all these meat products in all the industries. So big supermarkets like Tesco's, which is the equivalent of maybe American Walmart or Safeway, and they found that in their ready meals that they found traces of this horse meat over 1%, which was enough to report. And then they found it in IKEA. In the meatballs. It was kind of funny because I was in IKEA a few weeks ago, and the person I was with said, "Oh, we should go check out their food because I've heard that they have a really good canteen."
Yeah, they do.
So I kind of laughed and I went up there, and
I love the meatballs.
So I definitely, and whilst we were there in the queue, my friends said, "You're going to get the meatballs," because that was the deal that they had. And I jokingly at the time said,
"Oh no,
no, because you don't know where it's come from."
Oh no!
And you could only imagine, it was like, I don't know, $2-3. How is that going to be quality meat?
Yeah.
If I break an IKEA bookshelf within an hour of buying it and trying to put it together, what's the quality of their meat going to be like? Like really?
Yeah.
So they found it in that, and then more recently they found 4 main products. One of which was Taco Bell, that they found horse meat in their beef. So we really felt that this was a good opportunity to talk about this and have a sort of bit of an open forum, shall we say, on this topic. And by no means are we saying that the whole meat industry or the whole beef industry is got horse meat. But I think it's a real interesting topic to talk about, especially as I kind of feel we're lucky that the British media have picked up on it. I'm not too sure whether they would even have run these tests in America, probably because to avoid any controversy. And maybe the people that are in charge of initiating these investigations probably work at these companies anyway, or have worked there, or used to be an executive or something. So I can't necessarily see it happening here, but I think it really opens up the door a little bit more on the topic of what is in our food, and what is it that we're actually consuming. And I think what I was saying there before about being in IKEA and with the meatballs is that I said you don't know where this has come from, and I guess this is a big part of why I have cut down on eating meat and I don't eat it as much. And you're sort of going through a similar thing right now.
Right. A while back I did a Gerson training, and that was one of their points as well. They weren't necessarily absolutely opposed to eating some meat, but their point was, in the modern era, it's become so polluted with hormones and non-organic grains and things like that that it's an area that they're just don't do it because it's so suspect. It's kind of what you're saying. So that's what the Gerson people were saying. And then recently I was just happened to watch a video called Vegucated, which is a woman who takes 3 New Yorkers, Manhattanites, and puts them on a vegan diet. It's a fun story of them. And part of the documentary, they take them to small farms and things like that to show them the state of the the meat industry.
Oh, okay. Not necessarily the organic side of it.
But that's okay. So they don't even go to the big factory farms. I think they show them a film a bit of factory farms.
Okay.
And they don't show that in this documentary because it's too grueling, to show people. So the thing that was really unusual about this movie is that I had the impression that there were factory farms, but if I bought grass-fed or family farms, things like that, that it was cool, that everything was good at that level. What this movie got through to me, well, 2 things was, number 1, I saw treatment of animals even at these really kind of family farming, kind of what we think of as sugar-coated farming,
So even grass-fed,
small farms,
Farmer Joe's.
Yeah.
I'm not, stereotyping that. But they do stick those stereotype pictures on the front of all these meat. Next time you go in the supermarket, you have a look at their meat section, and you'll see that it is farm fresh. It's all these Farmer Joe this, and where they actually come from is more of a factory.
Well, and what this movie emphasized to me, was the moral thing. I finally kind of get, if you see just a few images, and these were very tame images, the way animals are treated, it's hard to justify morally what are done to animals. And I know that's sort of a controversial issue, but it put the question back in my mind, do I want to be doing this? So that was the moral. And I guess I kind of dismissed the whole moral question and really looked at it only from a health question. So that's one of the things it did for me.
Okay.
So I'm still thinking about that. The second thing was that a very good point it made, that economically the factory farms are putting pressure on the family farms, even the organic farms, to produce cheaper product. And what it's forcing these smaller farmers to do is to adopt somewhere in between factory farming and what we think of as nice farming. So there's still, the chickens are still closer than they should be. They may only let beef out to grass feed for a few weeks as opposed to their whole lives. They're starting to cut back, keep raising things under heat lamps. Apparently cattle are raised under heat lamps for a certain...
To get a suntan? Or
no, to have them grow faster. It's kind of bizarre, right? You put a baby calf under a lamp and it grows faster. Then you can put it out in the field instead of putting it out in the field right away. Things like that, they start compromising because they're under such economic pressure. From factory farms.
And I think it really spreads also, we're talking about meat here, but it's the same as the grain industry. They're under the same pressure with genetically modified grain, is that, they're being bullied out of the market almost.
Right.
And there was even that guy that he wanted organic grain, and Monsanto, which is the big grain company here in America, they investigated his field, so on his private property for a start, and found a genetically modified plant, let's say, and they could identify it as theirs, and they sued him and put him out, all his money. He'd been in the business 20-30 years, real family farmer, because he was unlawfully growing their seeds.
Their seed, which is copyrighted or whatever, trademarked or something.
Which has clearly come from the back of a truck, going to someone else's. He wasn't growing fields of this stuff. They found found bits of it. So when he obviously, Monsanto, multi-billion-dollar company, took him to court and he lost everything. So, local farmers are afraid as well, because if they don't conform to this way, then they're just going to go out of business.
Right. So, and the thing so this movie actually inspired me then to go to my local farmer's market, which I do bought vegetables at anyway. And I'm like, going up to the egg dealers and saying, "How are your chickens treated?" I'm specifically. It was kind of inspiring. I felt like some sort of radical.
Burn your bra.
Exactly. Yeah. I was going to go there. Thanks for going there for me. So I'm like, okay, how are your chickens treated? And it felt good actually to say to find out. And then I was asking the beef grower again, where how are the cows treated? So I think that we almost have to, if it's important to you, you have to sort of find sources where you feel comfortable about it. And I guess I'm at the point where I think health-wise, for me, eating some meat is my choice. So now I need to go and find those sources that I feel comfortable about. So.
Yeah, and I think I was exactly the same. It's not like, I never once said, I want to be a vegetarian. I guess for me it came from when I was travelling a lot around the world, and their meat, you would cook it and it would either not smell right, or I would know a lot of people that got sick. I also got food poisoning a few times from eating the meat, so it was kind of enough to start putting me off meat. And then, when I came here and started learning about how, they're treated with antibiotics, and obviously that stays in the tissue, so that when you eat it, you're eating antibiotics along with now the genetically modified food that they're being fed. So even though the animal isn't genetically modified, you are what you eat. I'm not saying that everyone's going to become a horse or a cow.
They can start growing corn stalks out of their head or something like that.
But if you're being fed genetically modified food, then that's what the tissue. We work so much here about how in self-healing, you want to have the prime environment in your body. In particular with the eye, we want to give the eye the best nutrients possible. That's why we talk about juicing and eating healthy foods, is because you want the best materials. Now, if your body is trying to make materials out of, genetically modified corn, and just low grade meat, if the animals aren't eating the nutrients, then the meat that you're eating has less nutrients in it. It's just common sense. So I think for me, I sort of, both Richard and I are pretty big meat eaters. I've always been a meat eater, and I would never say I'm a vegetarian, and I'd never say to someone that you have to be a vegetarian. But I think a big thing here, and what we like so much about this being in the news now, is hopefully it's going to open a little bit more people's eyes into the food industry, and how, as the consumer, we need to start asking a few more questions. And it's sad, but you have to put in a bit more effort to discover where your food is coming from, how maybe those farmers are treating that meat, and just find a little bit more information about it.
And that's the advantage of a farmer's market. You can actually talk to someone who's seeing the conditions directly.
Yeah, and I don't know, we're very spoiled here in San Francisco, because we have lots of farmers markets. It's very easy to get one. We've got a great climate here. I know in the UK it's a little bit more difficult to find the farmer's market, but I'm sure if you look for it, or for a local dealer, then you will find it. Or maybe you go to your local butcher instead of the supermarket. We've stopped doing that. And they might know a little bit more about the meat. If you went to the till and asked the woman in a supermarket about where did the meat come from. I even do it in restaurants, and people don't. They give you a very blank look. Even when you ask, what country did the meat come from, it's difficult.
Well, and one of the things I discovered in my recent research is this organic versus grass-fed.
Okay, I'd never heard about that.
No, and what I found was the grass-fed title can be kind of gray, so that they don't have to be out their entire lives to be considered grass-fed. So to be really precise and to be ensured that you have the best quality meat, it is better to ask for organic. And I know the grass-fed thing is very common now.
It's a buzzword, right? The same as natural. You can you're allowed to put natural on food. It doesn't mean it's organic. Again, it's getting the consumer to think, natural, organic, same thing. And I think they're trying to ban that now, that to say natural, or it has to at least fit a certain criteria to do that. But I guess talking about the grey area, also think about it with same thing as salmon. Farm salmon, I was all for cheaper meat, and salmon, I do like salmon. But then I found out that farm salmon isn't actually pink. They have to feed it pills in order for the skin to turn pink. So knowing that was enough to put me off eating it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to eat something that has had to have eaten a pill to change its skin colour. It's so natural.
Yeah, and then they have to feed them, I think, antibiotics or something, because they're in such close proximity.
Right.
The real problem with farm fish is the diseases that they get in being farmed,
Right.
and then those diseases spread to the live salmon as well. So it's not good. Not good anyway.
So we're really not trying to put everyone off meat. I guess what we're saying here is that you can. The big argument here as well, it's too expensive. You know,
Right.
the nice meat is too, or the good meat. You know, there used to be a time when that was the standard. So we need to maybe look at what went wrong there. But you know, what we've done now is we've not stopped eating meat, but we've cut down on it. And then instead of, you know, buying 5 lots of cheaper meat, I would maybe buy 2 lots of nice meat.
Right, and basically you're going to have to erase this concept of the 8-ounce or the 12-ounce steak and think more of like what you can fit in the palm of your hand. That's a good way of like 4 ounces of meat is plenty. 4 ounces of salmon, 4 ounces of hamburger, 4 ounces of steak.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so if you're used to eating 8 ounces, now you can eat 4 ounces. You can pay twice as much, and your bill won't go up.
That's true.
Yeah.
And then just if you say, oh, well, that wouldn't fill me up, then, you know, more vegetables.
Right.
You know, in order to do that. So okay, great. Well, just a short introduction there, and just a bit of a roundup. We wanted to really try and address this horse meat issue, and maybe just to start thinking about it a little bit more. And if it's left you feeling a little bit hoarse, then I apologise. We had to get at least one horse joke.
Well, the other thing that I forgot to tell the story was that when I was in Japan, I was traveling through Japan and staying at these onsens, which are these spas essentially, and they're feeding you these dramatic, huge kaseki banquets, these giant meals. And one day they offered us horse sashimi as this prized thing. So they should have, in Europe, they should have said, well, this is in Japan, this is a delicacy. We're just...
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing, is we're not necessarily saying horse meat is bad. I think it's just scary that we don't know what we're eating.
Exactly, that's the real issue,
Yeah.
is that we're being given something we don't know.
Even if it's not claimed as having horse meat in it, DNA, if it's got less than 1%, then you're fine.
Yeah.
We don't have to report it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's a good time to move on to question of the week.
And the question of the week this week is, should I be closing my eyes during the sunning eye exercise?
And this came a question through YouTube, somebody that just found the exercises, looking at some amblyopia exercises, and really wanted to know a little bit more about the sunning exercise. And this is kind of a frequent question.
Yeah, and
it's
a freaky question for us too, because we really don't want people having their eyes open. It's a little scary when people ask this question to us.
Yeah, so I guess the straight out answer is definitely if you're sunning, meaning that your head is tilted up towards the sun, and you're moving your head to side, that you need to make sure you must have your eyes closed.
Right.
100% always.
Yeah.
And having the eyelids closed is protecting your eyes from any UV damage or anything like that, if anyone is concerned about that from what they've heard in the reports. We've had some people talk about Sungazing, which is an Ayurvedic approach that they've been doing for thousands of years. But that is looking at the sun with the eyes open. I think that's more sunrise and sunset, and I think maybe people have misunderstood that. But we're going to go ahead and just say, to be on the safe side, have the eyes closed when you're doing the sunning eye exercise. And maybe people are getting confused with the skying exercise.
Oh, could be.
Which is where the skying is when you don't have any sun, those UK residents.
And Seattle residents.
Yeah, that's why I'm in California right now. That don't have sunshine often. Then you can sort of look up towards the clouds, and you can just blink very rapidly and turn your head from side to side, and at least you're still getting the benefits that you get from the sun, and you're also constricting and dilating the pupil, so you're still exercising the eyes, and still getting the benefits from the exercise.
Right. So in general, we are worried about your retina coming into direct contact with the light from the sun. So it's common sense. And if you want to do the sun-gazing thing, we wash our hands on you. You can do that, but
and your own
we would not encourage that at all. But the skying works as well, and the blinking. So if you want to do that, just look at our videos on that, and you'll figure out how to do it. And if you could actually sky also if the sun were out and you wanted to face the northern sky. Blue sky, you could do it then too. I'm not sure why you would do that actually. So yeah.
Sunning does feel so good, and everybody really enjoys the sunning exercise. Even if you're somebody that isn't necessarily looking to improve your eyesight, the sunning exercise is it's just a fantastic one for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, we hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you want to find out a little bit more about eye exercises, then head over to our website at envisionselfhealing.com, and you can check out some conditions and some exercises that you can do over there. You could also find a lot more of our blogs in the blog section on our webpage, and indeed you can check us out on Facebook. Just look at Envision Self Healing on Facebook, and you'll find us there, and we stick up regular pictures and updates and whatnot on how we're getting on. I don't know how we're going to get a picture of a horse for this week's podcast. We'll have to think about that.
Oh, all right, that would be good. I'll work on that.
And you can also check both Richard and I out on Twitter. We regularly update there and give out some tips on Twitter on how we're getting on. And again, if you haven't checked it out already, the Modern Day Guide for Improving Eyesight will give you a little bit more information on how our eyes naturally function, and indeed how our modern day world could be affecting that, or how we can use exercises to help get that strength back, to start improving our eyesight and indeed maintain our vision. Okay, great. Well, good luck with your eye exercises, everybody, this week, and happy healing.
And have a good week.